What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today for another Frosty Features. Who we got on the plate today? One of our other people representing the Nowhere team. We have Korg. So if you haven't seen a Frosty Features before, what this is a comic book background on the tunes that you use in Marvel Strike Force, and I am but your humble scribe. So what we are doing here is sticking mainly to Marvel 616 canon, kind of stay with the storyline, and we talk a little bit about MCU and other things that they're involved in. But, needless to say, let's hop in to Korg. Korg is a Kronoan warrior who was imprisoned on the planet S.H.I.E.L.D, where he became a gladiator and joined the revolution led by the Hulk. Like all Kronoans, Korg possesses super strength and a rock-like exterior that makes him extremely durable. After escaping S.H.I.E.L.D, Korg became a loyal member of the Asgardian refugees led by Thor and fought alongside them in the battle against Hela, and later against Thanos and his army in the Battle of Wakanda. Boom. So that's according to Scopely, that's who Korg is. For those of you who are even kind of privy to the information, that is specifically the MCU Korg. But we talk about comics on this channel. I hit the go button on the wrong computer. Alright. Let's do this. Alright. That's Korg. Woohoo! Name. Korg. First appearance, Journey into Mystery number 83 from 1962. That is right. This character has been around for a minute. Was really big in, even involved in the discovery of Thor. Like when we first get Thor, kind of rolling around in the comics. Power / ability, super strength, super durability, and super stamina, right? So Korg is simply a member of another human race, so just naturally stronger, more durable, and more durable and indurable than a human being. But outside of that, for Korg's race, there's nothing necessarily standing out about Korg. Korg is just a warrior within the Kronoan race. Or else I keep hitting next on the same thing. Aliases, Stone Man, Rock Man, etc. Kronoans are just kind of referred to as these different rock kind of monikers, and it kind of gets passed around. So technically, he gets called in response to those sorts of things, but really only goes by Korg. There's enough of him being referenced in other ways that I didn't want to put that he was in no duel, because he doesn't have anything else he goes by, but he does respond to other things. So there we go. Affiliation, Hulk's Warbound. So, in the comics, Korg's actually not around that much. His race is a little bit more present. But when it comes to Korg himself, he's only really involved. I don't want to say we're going over the entire history of Korg today, but if we're not, it's extremely close. We're going over just kind of the main events. But yeah, so when it comes down to it, Korg works closely with Hulk in the Warbound. The Planet Hulk story is really big, and then after the Planet Hulk story, when you get World War Hulk, etc., you see Korg working with him. Unlike in the MCU, Korg does not. First off, Korg is orange instead of gray, and two, Korg does not work with Thor. Far from it. I did it again. Who died? Margus. Margus is Korg's brother. He is another Kronoan, and Korg ends up in a situation where he has to battle him on Sakaar. You know, they're enslaved, very similar to Thor Ragnarok. They're enslaved, and they have to work as gladiators and fight each other. And there's a situation, we'll describe it a little bit more in depth in a little while, but there's a situation where Korg ends up against his brother, and he has to kill Margus, which further implants Korg's involvement in the rebellion against the overlords of Sakaar. We'll talk about Planet Hulk a lot more here in a little bit. Background. Korg is a Kronoan from Rhea. Rhea is the planet from which the Kronoans live, and the Cronoans start off in the Marvel universe as this invading race, so they invade different planets and like try to take them over. And so when we first see them, we have the Cronoans who have relocated to Saturn, and they're invading the planet Earth. So this is when we first see Korg, and this is actually when we have a banished Thor as Dr. Donald Blake. Donald Blake is on. Dr. Blake is the human avatar for Thor. He doesn't have any of his powers, and it's kind of like the Thor movie where Odin sends Thor to Earth to kind of prove himself worthy as Thor. Then the Cronoans invade, and Donald Blake gets trapped in this cave, and in doing so, he finds Mjolnir. He finally gets the ability to wield Mjolnir, and then he destroys a bunch of Cronoans and makes them flee back to Saturn. This is all very important because in this fleeing, they kind of go back. If I recall correctly, as they're fleeing, they stop at the moon, and Thor catches them there, and Thor really puts the fear down on them Cronoans. And then on their way out, Korg and Margus get caught in a dimensional warp in their attempt to flee from their second run-in with Thor, and that's how they get to Sakaar. And some other Cronoans go with them, but those are the two main ones that we are aware of. So one of the big things that I wanted to point out, so what do we have next for our thing? Here's the thing. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second. So one big thing I want to point out is Korg. Even though he's in very little in the comics, he's a very interesting and deep character, and he goes through a lot. In comparison to his MCU counterpart, who's really chill and he's really funny, they're very opposites. This Korg in the comics goes through a lot of turmoil and like strife, and the one in the MCU is quite chill and whatever. Even to the point where he's like, my best friend Meep's dead, and then he's good, he's alive. Stuff like that. So it's quite different, very emotional character in the comics. So here's the thing. One thing I like to point out that's really interesting, but hasn't actually been fully, it has been touched on, but not fully explored in the comics to my knowledge, is the Thing from Fantastic Four greatly resembles this race of aliens a lot. The powers are the same. The look is the same. Size-wise, strength, everything is the same. And so a fan theory is the reason why Ben Grimm mutates the way he does is because the radiation that he receives is actually Cronoan DNA, but we don't actually know that. And there is a situation where the Thing is working with Cronoans, and you can see that, and it's theorized, but it's not confirmed. I thought this was really interesting, as this is pretty much the only time I'm going to be able to bring something like that up. So the Thing could be a form of a human that has mutated into a Cronoan. We've seen it in other alien races and things like that. I just thought that would be a cool thing to bring up. The Thing's really prevalent in the Marvel universe, and it's never actually explained that well as to what he is. Also, they've recently gone into Cronoan physiology as well as the Things, because they keep bringing up him fighting the Hulk, and they are extremely similar as well. So there's many counterparts, or there's many things to pull from both things. So just really interesting. Not actually official or addressed yet in the comics, but something to keep your eye on. That could be something in the future. We don't know. Two dudes in a river of lava. So this is actually a retcon I find this so interesting. So in Thor Love and Thunder, Korg points out, spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't seen Thor Love and Thunder, you maybe don't if you haven't yet. But there's a point in Thor Love and Thunder where Korg points out that all of the Cronoans are males, so two males get together and they hold hands in a river of lava, and after they're there for, I think it's 3 days, they spawn a baby. Most of the time when there's retcons like that in the MCU, they kind of let that be its own universe, because the MCU, according to comics, not to the MCU itself, but to the comics, the MCU is a separate universe. The MCU tried to take hold of the 616 situation, but not a thing. So anyway, in Marvel, in the comic books, they have retconned that to be the truth. And so instead of it being kind of funny when that happens to Korg in Thor Love and Thunder, it's actually really serious and something really freaking sad happens. And we'll talk about that soon. But it is retconned and it is canon in the comics that that's how that works. And I wanted to bring that up because it's important for where we're going next. Does comic book Korg have a Kiwi accent? No, he does not. All right, whatever that is. Relationships. Korg and Anna are Korg's fathers. Margus is his brother. We talked about that a little bit already. We're going to go into a little bit more. Heroine is Korg's lover. This is a Kronoan that has hair for some reason, but he's a really badass warrior. And not the dude stash that is in the MCU. In the MCU, Korg's mate that they have a kid with, Korg's lover, I don't know if you call it lover because they're just holding hands, but whatever. It's a different race. They do different things. Is Dwayne with the mustache. Heroine has like a ponytail. So Heroine's cooler. Probably a more fierce warrior because more aerodynamic with the ponytail. Anyway, Thor is a feared adversary. So Thor beat the crap out of the Kronoans so badly that there's a situation where Korg fights a being known as Trauma, and Trauma makes people face their own traumas, and it is revealed that Korg's greatest fear is Thor. So quite far from being buddy as they are in the MCU. So far, in fact, that Korg does his best to not associate with Thor as much as he can. So, notable events. Notable events. Planet Hulk. So Planet Hulk, debatably one of the most famous comic book stories of all time. It is the situation where the Hulk destroys Las Vegas, and he really regrets what happens, and so he kind of I'm trying to remember, I think he goes to Alaska, but ultimately he goes out into the wilderness, so he's separated from everybody because he doesn't want to risk destroying cities and being a threat to everybody. And in the meantime, he gets a call from Nick Fury, and Nick Fury's like, hey, there is a satellite. It is a bad satellite, and you got to go destroy it. So we're going to put you on this ship, and we're going to send you out. Turns out that the satellite is actually owned by S.H.I.E.L.D., and the Illuminati have decided that Hulk is too much of a threat to keep on Earth, so they're sending him out into space. They're profusely apologizing. They're saying sorry, but this is for the best type situation. And so his ship gets taken into a similar warp that Korg and Margus go through, and he ends up on the battle planet, the desert world, Sakaar, and in this transfer through this kind of beam, he gets injured and he can't heal as fast. Therefore, he can get his butt kicked a little bit more, and he ends up becoming a gladiator slave like Korg and Margus. So in this situation, he's kind of becoming the champion, very similar to how we see in Thor Ragnarok, and there's a lot of talk and discourse about wanting to be able to kind of topple the other groups. So the first group that's put together, which eventually mostly becomes Hulk's Warbound, they do team versus team, but what they end up fighting is a group of Kronoans who have had these obedience discs. So they're like these discs that are implanted in their chest. They've had these obedience discs so long that their minds kind of deteriorate really bad. So Korg's trying to talk to Margus and try to get him to like understand and not to fight back or whatever, but their minds are so destroyed or distraught or whatever that they can't respond back. So Korg, especially if you read into this panel or you read the thing, Korg's desperately pleading with his brother to try to get him to recognize it, and Hulk's like, dude, he's too far gone, you gotta kill him. And Korg's like, fine, I'll kill him. So Korg turns his brother into gravel, and then in the bottom right panel of that, the little image I have, it's him like crying over this dust pile that was his brother. That's not funny at all. They sure didn't have that. They sure did not have that in Thor Ragnarok. So anyway, with that, all the horrors and stuff are kind of revealed. A lot of the Kronoans were very subservient to the Sakaar situation. This definitely pushed Korg over the edge. and he decided that he definitely was going to stick with the rebellion. And eventually, this war bond situation, they all come up, and they are fighting a new group, and this group is led by none other than Silver Surfer. Now, Silver Surfer, for those of you tuning in from home, Silver Surfer is not somebody to sniff at. And for some reason, also, there's an animated Planet Hulk movie that's really fun. But I believe, if I remember correctly, there's two versions of it. One, they fight Silver Surfer, and the other one, for some reason, they fight Beta Ray Bill, which is cool. But in the comics, it's Silver Surfer, and the Hulk is like, uh-oh, it's the Silver Surfer, and they fight, and it's a big thing, but Hulk is able, somehow, to get the obedience disc and break the obedience disc off of Silver Surfer's chest, and Silver Surfer's like, oh, thanks, buddy, these guys are mega screwed now, and so immediately Silver Surfer's like, no obedience discs, and all of them kind of dissolve, so Korg is freed, therefore, by Silver Surfer, and then the rebellion begins, and they kind of fight back, and lo and behold, Hulk becomes the new god of Sakaar, the leader of Sakaar, the new king, and he gets a chance to go back home, and at first he's like, no, I'm gonna lead my people here, but eventually, so check out Planet Hulk. Obviously, I kind of spoiled some of it. It's good to read. Awesome stuff. There's the movies and stuff are really cool. It's sort of the plot that happened in Ragnarok, but they changed it quite a bit. Thor's not involved. But check out Planet Hulk. It's super cool, and it is followed up by World War Hulk, where Hulk takes an army back to Earth to kind of get revenge on the situation. So super cool to check out. Highly recommend it. All right, and then New Mexico. So New Mexico is sort of this. It's a much newer situation. So this is where the leader, very renowned Hulk villain. I'm just pointing out how sad Korg is. All this stuff is sad. The leader. So a lot of the leader storylines. So we have the leader in the MCU. He was introduced to the Incredible Hulk in 2008, and we haven't seen him since. But with the leader, in the comics, he's a smaller gamma monster, and instead of him getting crazy super strength, he has super strength, but he has like regular super strength, if you want to call it that, but he has super intelligence, and his head grows up as his brain expands. In some versions it goes out, and he wears these different types of like more or less neck braces, because on occasion his head is too heavy and it'll break his neck. So he gets depowered, and so every time he starts getting depowered, he goes on a quest to get repowered. So he's stealing gamma guns, he's stealing different forms of just different things that emit radiation. And in this situation, Korg's partner is Heroine, and Heroine is a very strong Krynoan warrior that has joined the war bond for the World War Hulk situation, and then is traveling around with the war bond doing stuff. And so he captures Heroine of the war bond, and he uses Heroine has this power from Rhea, which is called the Old Power, and all it really is cosmic power, but it's like cosmic power that can't be controlled very well. But through the Krynoans, it creates essentially telekinesis, or like geokinesis, I guess maybe it's called, but they can control rocks, which is a super cool power to have. So Hero, with that, kind of becomes a super Krynoan, if you will. So anyway, gets captured by the leader, and the leader is using Hero as a battery, more or less, using that old power as this battery, and he seals off this like village and just completely coats it in gamma radiation so that he can revive himself. And with all that, casualties and such, also mutates a lot of people within this gamma ball, and they're like, we need people that are resistant to gamma radiation and stuff, and go in there and save the day, because if this stuff gets removed too quickly, everybody in here is going to die. And so the war bond ends up involved with that. They go in and they fight Leader, and it goes really well until somebody takes a pipe and stabs Leader in the chest. And then when he's stabbed in the chest, he does his whole, I'm dying villain spiel, and then he puts his hand on Heroine, and he drains the power out of Heroine and this big kind of shield he's got going on, and he becomes this giant gray monster, and he's rampaging. And then Heroim's like, I've got this, I've got geomancy or whatever, and he starts fighting him back, but then he's going to lose, and Heroim realizes that along with the leader, he's going to die, and he ends up being wrong. The leader lives, but he tries to kill him, and he's not able to. So right before Heroim is, he's not making it, he's not doing well, and then he transfers his powers into this lady named Kate Wadesboro, who then defeats the leader. Kate Wadesboro is notably, she's ex-Miss MODOK, so she was a female version of MODOK for a while, but she actually was a secret agent from S.H.I.E.L.D. sent to work with the Hulk and spy on the Hulk and all this stuff, but she falls in love with Bruce Banner, and it's a whole thing. But anyway, she gets the old power for a while, and she defeats the leader, who then teleports away, and then Heroim dies in the arms of Korg, and Korg is like, why does everybody I love die? And he is like, I'll be here in different ways. And in this little clip here is later when he's seeing him, I died again, world, blah 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 blah. But yeah, so that didn't end up working super great for Korg either way. So Korg, like I said, Korg's kind of a background character a lot of the times in the comics, but is involved in these very big emotional arcs for Korg, and is very opposite of his MCU counterpart, which is a little wild. But yeah, so that's Korg in a nutshell. So in Marvel Strike Force, they don't really care for power levels, but here on Frosty Features, we do. So the way this works is if you are a multiversal power level, you can end all of reality as we know it, and not just as we know it, but as everyone knows it. All of the multiverse can be destroyed by simply your whim. Universal means you can end your reality, maybe hop over to another dimension or whatever, and end that one. Cosmic means you are a threat on a planetary scale. You can destroy planetary bodies with the snap of a finger or something, and with enough time and effort, you can destroy, theoretically, solar systems or small galaxies. Nuclear means that your power is equal to that of a nuclear bomb, which means you can level small cities, and with enough time, enough bombs perhaps, you could end the world, destroy a planet. Super Soldier means that you are equal to that of a human being, plus your reflexes, stamina, strength, speed is all higher than that than a human could possibly reach. City means you are a hero, or a human that is highly trained to the point that you cannot get any better. You are a secret agent, you are some sort of spy. The city heroes are all over the planet as far as in Marvel. And then there's Greg. Greg's the undead Asgardian that is spawned by Hela in Marvel Strike Force, and due to undead Asgardian physiology, and just for, let's say, the sake of argument, we're gonna put Greg equal to that of a human level. So if I have a weed eater that has shoestring instead of weed eating at the end of it, and a lot of anger, perhaps I could kill Greg. So Greg's that kind of bottom level, human level. And in the case of Korg, the Cronoan, we are looking at someone who is at the super soldier level of ability. Korg is just a Cronoan. Korg is a trained Cronoan who can fight really well, and Korg is much stronger and durable than your regular human. Not faster, but makes up for it in the durability, stamina, and strength. So Korg is at a super soldier level, and according to Scopely, Korg might as well not even be in the comics. They went straight up for the MCU interpretation, so it's a comic cop-out. As far as the MCU interpretation goes, it's okay. It's very brief. It doesn't actually go into that much detail about Korg. Also, Korg has nothing to do with Nowhere, as far as I know, so that's another thing where it's an interesting choice and something that they went with, but alas, here we are. So it's a comic book cop-out. Even in the MCU way, really not even that great anyway. But there it is. That is Frosty Features Korg, the Cronoan. This is apparently the title I've decided to put on him. Please let me know what you thought in your comments. Let me know your favorite Korg moments from the MCU or the comics down below. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks, and it really helps the channel out. As a reminder, I stream every Sunday at the link above at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we do Frosty Features live. I hope that you all have enjoyed this, and I hope that you all have a fantastic week, and most importantly, y'all, stay cool.